Yes, it is true. We are back. And I told you things were going to be a little bit different. One of those things, we got intro music. We are also, if you can see my face, on YouTube. If you can only hear my face and the sounds coming out of it, you didn't know that yet, perhaps. We are now on YouTube. So this is the Scotty Six Pack. Thank you for listening. And thank you for enjoying your morning with a six pack. The Scotty Six Pack, the only podcast that's bringing you the top stories in Wisconsin sports every single day. And I promise we are coming back to do it every single day. I am your host, Kedrick Stumbres, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, anything you can think of, simply at Kedrick Stumbres, and follow the podcast on Twitter at Scotty Six Pack to get the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. Very happy to be back. Very happy to bring a video component to the podcast. And so we are a beverage themed enterprise of sorts, and it is Friday. Happy Friday. So cheers to that. Let's crack open our ice cold non-alcoholic. Oh, that's right. And we have sound effects because I'm obnoxious. Welcome in to the Scotty Six Pack. If you're new here, this is our 6 days a week show about everything there is to know in Wisconsin sports. If you are a Green Bay Packers fan, if you are a Wisconsin Badgers fan, if you are a Milwaukee Brewers fan, if you are a Milwaukee Bucks fan, maybe you're a Milwaukee Panthers fan. We talk about all kinds of that stuff here. Obviously, some teams more than others. Milwaukee Panthers, not going to come up as often as some might like, but I do like to get my way out to Panther Arena and enjoy a game from time to time. I also, if you are watching on YouTube, you might see this strange hat I am wearing here. I like to get out to a minor league baseball game from time to time and cheer on teams like the Nashville Hot Chickens, the alternate identity sported by the Milwaukee Brewers, AAA minor league affiliate, Nashville Sounds, for a series this past weekend. I am here in Nashville, Tennessee at the moment, but reside primarily in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At least I'll be able to say that in just a couple of weeks here after I've spent the last year basically nomadic full-time. So looking forward to spending more time in Wisconsin, hopefully looking forward to spending more time with likes of you in person and at sporting events in the state of Wisconsin. In addition to this podcast coming to you on YouTube, we're also going to be doing some things a little bit differently in terms of how we explore topics, how we talk about topics, instead of the kind of rapid fire nature that we had before. Although we will be keeping parts of that, giving you the stories every day. That will be everything you need to know every day. I also want to take this format to another level to be able to talk about things a little bit more in depth than we necessarily have before. And that includes the way we talked about the NFL draft leading up in the last episodes of the previous format of the podcast. But that means we're also going to be able to bring on some guests. You'll be able to talk to people that aren't just me. Longtime listeners might know we've had a guest before in my younger brother, but not to slight him, but we're going to bring on some folks who I think share some really in-depth knowledge about some topics in Wisconsin sports and some people that I'm really excited to make part of the show moving forward. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers, and there's a lot to talk about. The first half of the season is over. The All-Star break is going to end today. And that means that we are about to get into, the second half of the season in earnest. We're technically slightly past the midway point, but I think it is time we talk about where this Milwaukee Brewers team has been and where this Milwaukee Brewers team is going. So let's talk about the Milwaukee Brewers first half and what we can take away from the first half of this 2023 Major League Baseball season. The Brewers enter the All-Star break and are now coming out of it today. 7 games over 500, pretty solid. They have a 49-42 record overall and are just 1 game back in the division. They have a 6-game lead on the 3rd place Chicago Cubs. So it would appear this division is going to come down to the Milwaukee Brewers and the team at the top, just 1 game ahead of Milwaukee, the Cincinnati Reds. If you're following this team, that's no surprise. If you have not been following this team, that may be a little bit of a surprise. It was Milwaukee and the St. Louis Cardinals were expected to be close contenders for the NL Central Division title, and it has not gone that way for the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals are 11.5 games back of the Cincinnati Reds and sit in last place in the division. I do not believe they are going to be a playoff team this year, absent something miraculous happening here in the second half overall. Milwaukee is actually opening its second half post All-Star break series today against the Cincinnati Reds with another 3-game series at Cincinnati. And that is coming after the last series Milwaukee played was a separate 3-game series against Cincinnati in Milwaukee. So this is 6 straight games for the Brewers against the Cincinnati Reds. And obviously, Milwaukee being just a game back in the division makes this a very contentious series, very competitive series, very important series moving forward. Milwaukee took 2 of 3 in the series that led right into the All-Star break. And this is actually the last set of games Milwaukee is going to play against the Reds this year. They're going to play these 3 games and then in just a few days play another 3-game series in Milwaukee, and Milwaukee and Cincinnati will not play again until, a potential playoff matchup, I guess you could say, but they're not going to play again the rest of the regular season. And for these 2 teams that seem to be the title contenders for the NL Central pennant, that makes every one of these games incredibly important, especially given the fact that there is no longer a game 163. If the division is tied at the end of the regular season, Major League Baseball takes the head-to-head record of these 2 teams to decide the tiebreaker. And Milwaukee is 5-2 against Cincinnati so far this year. So at least to take the tiebreaker, Milwaukee needs to win 2 of these next 6 games against Cincinnati. Obviously, you would prefer, to not go 4-2 and drop another 2 games back and be 3 games back for the division lead. But even if you did that, you just need to make up those 3 games instead of having to make up 4. Being 3 games back and not having the tiebreaker is essentially being 4 games back. So giving the tiebreaker here will do a lot for Milwaukee at the very least, even if Milwaukee gets swept in a series and only takes a game in another, right? You can still feel okay about Milwaukee's chances at winning the pennant moving forward. So let's take a look at this Milwaukee Brewers team overall and what they have done to get here to a spot where they're just a game back in the division against the unexpected Cincinnati Reds. Well, one of the ways they got here, and being, the fact they're 7 games over 500 is surprising to me because nobody on this team can hit. Milwaukee is last in the National League in a number of hitting statistics. And those include those include OPS. They are last in slugging. They are last in on-base percentage. They are last in batting average. They are only second to last in total strikeouts, so I guess take some solace in that. They're last in getting doubles. They are last in hits. They have scored the third least amount of runs. It's been a rough year offensively for the Crew, except for Christian Yelich, who is having perhaps his third best season ever, and that means that he is contending with his 2 MVP seasons against that being his first and second best seasons. Obviously, he didn't win the MVP in 2019. Cody Bellinger did, but Christian Yelich should have been the MVP in 2019. So Christian Yelich has an OPS plus of 128. He leads the team in OPS, in slugging, in on base percentage, having just a really, really, really fantastic year overall. And you love to see it. I think one of the negative takeaways from this is that someone you wish were having a better season, perhaps you wish were, or thought at the very least, was going to have a better season than Christian Yelich is Willy Adames. And Willy Adames has struggled a little bit for Milwaukee. His OPS plus is below 100. Again, that's his on-base plus slugging percentage adjusted to the rest of the league, where 100 is average, and then 105 being 5 points above 100 means you're 5% better than the average hitter in the league. Willy Adames is at 93, so 77% worse than average in terms of OPS this season. Not exactly what we've come to expect from Willy Adames as kind of a fringe MVP type of player, someone who I think many Brewer fans expected to compete and put himself in position for a huge shortstop contract, much like the ones that were handed out this past summer, and now is perhaps playing himself out that position. So unfortunate to see that happening with Willy Adames, but yeah, this team just can't hit, and it's not even that. It's not even that this team is just hitting for power and that's the only thing that they do, which has been a complaint among Brewers fans for quite a while, because they've only hit 97 home runs. They've hit fewer than 100 home runs in the first half of the season here, and that's 10th in the National League. Like, they're not great at hitting, period. Fortunately, the rules have made things kind of exciting for the Brewers. One of the ways they're at least quite good is in stealing bases when they do get on. They're fourth in the National League in stolen bases. Also, they can get on without hitting, fourth in the NL in walks. But this is a team that has struggled getting on the base paths, even if they have succeeded after getting there. And so I think many fans go and say, oh, well, this team is clearly getting carried by its starting pitching. We have Corbin Burnes, we have Brandon Woodruff, we have Freddie Peralta. And no, you would be mistaken, because my goodness, the starting pitching in the first half has just been horrendous. I mean, not horrendous, but far below what we as fans of the Crew have come to expect from Corbin Burnes, from Freddie Peralta, not from Brandon Woodruff, because Brandon Woodruff has not played this year. He's only played in 2 games because he suffered an early injury and fortunately should be coming back in short order. But Corbin Burnes, his ERA plus, same thing as OPS plus. Take the earned run average of your pitcher, adjust it to the league average. 105, 5% better than average. 95, 5% worse than average. Corbin Burnes' ERA plus is 107, which is solid. He's an above average starting pitcher, but he's not much more than that. And so, yes, he was named to the All-Star game, but it was, quite frankly, a little bit surprising. And Freddie Peralta has been not good. You typically expect Freddie Peralta to play more like a second starter on this team. Milwaukee's very happy to have Freddie Peralta, where they have him in the lineup, but he has struggled with his command most of the season and has had just really, really awful starts. His ERA plus is below 100. It's actually at 90. Really tough. It's the same score that Colin Ray has had, who has had 15 starts for the Brewers. Colin Ray, who was minor league call-up, and Brewers just need him in the lineup because they don't have Brandon Woodruff. And so Brewers have struggled with their starting pitching this year, but the bullpen has been absolutely phenomenal. Devin Williams as a closer, he doesn't blow games. He has an incredible strikeout rate. He's just great. You love everything Devin Williams has given you this year. He's what you expect, every once in a while gives up a run, not what you would like. But Devin Williams has been fantastic as a closer, as the shutdown man this year. Yoel Payamps has also been phenomenal as the Brewers, newfound setup man this season. Absolutely great out of the bullpen. Hobie Milner, also the same. But there's some unsung heroes on the starting pitching side too, like Wade Miley, who came back to Milwaukee after he had his great career season in 2018 with the Brewers. Came back, and I don't know if he was hoping for another career renaissance, but he has had just absolutely great season. And it's these guys on the Brewers that have been, I think apart from Devin Williams, unexpected, unsung heroes for this team that has struggled in so many other ways. They've had to get scrappy to generate runs. Their starting pitching has not been shut down in the way that it has been in the past, which you would imagine is going to really hurt a team that cannot score. So for this team to succeed in this way has been really phenomenal. So looking to the side there, I am, as I shared, I am nomadic. I'm in a shared apartment building, and I had to find a closed door common room space as the only place to do this today. So had someone unexpectedly try to enter the door that I can't lock. So fun. Anyway, Milwaukee's starting pitching has struggled. He's hitting has struggled. So what can they do in the second half to pull this together to make a division title run? Let's talk about it. But first, we got to talk about TickPick. TickPick, for those of you who know, is the best place for you to make your next ticket purchase. I buy all of my tickets on TickPick, and it's not an ad. This is just a service I love, and I want you to save money on your next ticket purchase. When you use TickPick, you will never pay service or delivery fees like you will on other ticket selling apps, and it comes with a best price guarantee. If you find a better price somewhere else for the same ticket, TickPick will refund you twice the difference in credit toward your next purchase. Plus, if you use my link in the podcast description, you will save $10 on your first order. So go to the Google Play Store, go to the Apple App Store, download the TickPick app, and never pay service or delivery fees for tickets to Milwaukee Brewers game, to Milwaukee Bucks game, to a Green Bay Packers game ever again. Quickly, I just want to say thanks so much to all of you for being here, for joining me once again on the Scotty Six Pack podcast. It means a lot. And while you're here, give the show a nice review. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. It's free. Hit the bell. Get notifications whenever we post our next episode, and potentially go live. You'll get notifications when we go live. Thinking that we're probably going to have some live stream episodes in the near future, depending on what that is. Be a fun way to engage with listeners. And in the heat of a potential NL Central division title race, we're going to have a lot to talk about and a lot of feelings to work through on a live show. So we'll have that upcoming. And of course, we got Wisconsin Badgers football coming, Green Bay Packers season coming quickly. So we'll have some great live stream episodes and immediate reactions to those shows where we can talk about all of that immediately after the game. So that's really exciting. So let's talk about the Milwaukee Brewers in the second half. As we mentioned earlier on in the portion of the episode where we talked about the division standings, Milwaukee has 6 games against Cincinnati in the month of June, between now and the end of the month. And that's it. They do not play, or sorry, not in June, in July. And they do not play in August. They do not play in September. No game 163 anymore. So got to win 2 of these next 6 games. And you probably want to win more. July overall is a tough schedule for Milwaukee. You got the Reds, you have the Phillies, who are also 7 games over 500 and a potential wild card team that Milwaukee will need to battle with again. And Milwaukee has 2 series against Atlanta, which the Braves are just running away with the NL East. Those are going to be tough games. Fortunately, things get a little bit easier at the beginning of August. Milwaukee has a 4-game series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but it's sandwiched between a series against the Nationals, and then a series against the Rockies and a series against the White Sox. And all 3 of those teams are just brutal this year. Under 500, not going to be competing for their division or wild card spot. So going to be tough. And then Milwaukee will close the season with 7 games against the St. Louis Cardinals in the closing days, and then playing a 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs on the 29th and 30th of September, and then October 1st. But before that happens, Milwaukee has 7 games against St. Louis in the final, in just 11 days. 7 games in 11 days against St. Louis, series in St. Louis, and then a series in Milwaukee. And I think that was probably put on the schedule that way, assuming that Milwaukee and St. Louis would be in a dead heat for the division. And we really all thought that those games were going to be very, very important in an NL Central division title race. But I think fortunately for the Brewers, those could be games where Cardinals are so far out of it, and who knows who is going to be on the roster at that point. You see in these games that don't mean a lot at the end of the season for teams, they'll get a lot of minor league call-ups, and Brewers might have a chance to beat up on some either lesser competition or some players who just don't care, because it doesn't mean anything at that point if the Cardinals are knocked out of a division title race and wild card race. So Milwaukee could have a chance to beat up on what is proven to be a bad Cardinals team, and do that in a way that probably helps them in the division title race against Cincinnati. So the other question beyond just like the schedule, how that might play out, important series coming down the line for Milwaukee, is the personnel. We talked about how hitting has not been going well for Milwaukee. Well, what are the positions that they need help with around the diamond? And pitching, what can they do there? Fortunately, Brandon Woodruff is going to come back, so that's a huge personnel add for Milwaukee. I mean, adding a number 1 to 2 starting pitcher without having to give anything up in July and August, absolutely huge, massive for this team that needs help at the starting pitching position, because the way they assumed they would be dominant has just not come to fruition. And you would have hoped to have it back earlier, because the Reds just put up so many runs. They're never out of any game. It feels like their call up top prospect phenom, Ellie De La Cruz, is doing something to get himself on SportsCenter top 10 every single night. stealing around the base paths, just the most exciting player in baseball outside of Shohei Ohtani. Just phenomenal. And so you wish Milwaukee had this kind of run prevention at pitcher while they were playing the Reds here. But got to generate wins somehow, got to generate runs somehow. And Milwaukee did it one day, winning, 8-7 in their most recent series, and did it another day winning 1-0. So teams going to scrap together wins, apparently. But it's a middling team. It's an average team. This isn't a team that I think really has any chance at winning the World Series unless something miraculous happens. But this is a team that's going to go 500, probably right around there. And if they can get some personnel help, maybe they push themselves to be a little bit better than that. So Brandon Woodruff coming back would be huge. Sal Frelick is probably due for a call-up out of Nashville. It looks good. Looks very exciting. Would be very great for him to come back. Keston Hiura may also be due for a major league call-up. He was playing incredibly well to start the season, and then got injured. Has still been playing well. You'd hope that something happens. I don't want to say that I would be very excited for Keston Hiura to come up to get a major league call-up again, but the reason that might happen is because first base for the Brewers has just been an absolute mess. Rowdy Tellez has been not good, very far from it this year. He has a negative wins against replacement, so the average MLB player would be better, would impact more wins than Rowdy Tellez has this season, according to Baseball Reference's WAR stat. The early Luke Voigt experiment did not work this season for Milwaukee. Since then, I know that Luke Voigt went to go play for the New York Mets AAA club. I don't know if he's still there. Owen Miller has been playing, at first base most of these days that Rowdy Tellez has recently had a 10-day IL stint, as I assume he deals with his phantom injury and tries to just get his head right, but needs something to happen there. And Brewers have kind of run themselves out of all of these options that they have had over time. Luke Voigt, Rowdy Tellez, Keston Hiura, nothing looks great. And Keston Hiura can't, for whatever reason, just can't play defense. I don't want Keston Hiura out there, trying to scoop the ball up. Maybe try to throw Victor Caratini there when he's, he has his off days from backup catching. I don't know. Really tough. I think the other spot that has been rough is this platoon at right field between Blake Perkins and Rafael Tapia has left a lot to be desired. I just saw Tyrone Taylor in his rehab assignment at AAA Nashville last weekend for the All-Star break, and he looks good. I mean, he was obviously playing against AAA competition, but made a couple of really outstanding defensive plays from center field, just throwing guys out or making catches off of speed, running, getting a good beat on the ball that hitters were not expecting him to. So Tyrone Taylor looks good and should hopefully be returning and would be another great addition to add into the outfield. But overall, the outfield would have just been better if Garrett Mitchell hadn't suffered that season-ending injury so quickly early on. Joey Weaver has looked good playing center field. Obviously, we talked about how Christian Yelich has returned to form, having perhaps his third best season ever, behind just his 2 MVP caliber seasons. And if you were able to play all 3 of those guys, that would be great, along with Joey Weaver, who started hot, then struggled, went really cold, couldn't hit a breaking ball to save his life, but now has looked really good since then as well. And hopefully Tyrone Taylor there could help. Hopefully he can hit and spark a little bit of offense for this team. So first base, probably where the Brewers need to get the most help. They'll probably make their signature move at the trade deadline to go get a reliever and see what happens. But this isn't a team that's going to make big moves at the trade deadline. They just can't afford to. They don't have, aside from Jackson Chourio or Tyler Black or Jefferson Caro. Those names don't mean a lot to you if you don't follow Brewers very closely, but those are their top prospects. And they also have other prospects that are very close to playing at the major league level right now, a la Sal Frelick. But the problem the Brewers have is that they can't really afford to go and sell off a bunch of pieces because so many of their young pieces are already so close to playing. And this team is not necessarily a World Series contender right now, and it would take a lot for them to get there. Like, I don't know that an impact bat at first base exists on the market for Milwaukee to go out and find. So I expect this team to be relatively quiet at the deadline and then see where to go after this season. Maybe Corbin Burns gets dealt over the offseason. He's not going to be dealt now because, frankly, his stock is just not as high as you would like it to be if you're dealing with Corbin Burns. You hope he gets a little bit hot here in the second half of the season, probably, and then you deal him in the offseason. Because we all know he's not going to end up signing a long-term deal in Milwaukee after his spat with ownership this past season. So that could be big moves in the second half, but some exciting games coming up overall. I know that Milwaukee plays at the Yankees in the second weekend of September, or maybe it's the first weekend, depending on like what day Labor Day falls on, whatever. That's a fun game. I might actually be going to that because I'm going to be in New York around that time. So would be excited to see any New York-based or traveling Brewers fans out there if you're headed that way. But otherwise, I'll be back in Milwaukee soon, and we'll probably be trying to go to as many games in August in particular as I can, while I'll be traveling a lot in September. But I will, of course, share all those plans with you soon. In terms of other notes, before we get out of here, Milwaukee and the rest of the MLB released the 2024 season schedule today. So go take a look up at that. Should be fun. They notably start and end the season against the New York Mets. Start the season in New York. Maybe the Brewers will have some familiar faces in that organization by the time they play the Mets to open next season. Who's to say? That's also a New York series I might actually be going to, oddly enough, because the Chicago Blackhawks play at the Islanders 2 days after the opening series ends in New York for the Brewers. So could be a fun little road trip for me to take. But anyway, that is going to do it for today's episode of the Scotty Six Pack. Thank you so much again. Cheers to you. I almost forgot our fun little sound drop here. How could I forget? We got to do it for the brand. Oh goodness, I gotta find it on the other thing. All right, don't worry, I got it. Perfect. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking back around. I really, really do appreciate it. And while you're here, subscribe to us on YouTube. Smash the subscribe button. Hit the bell. You'll get notifications whenever we upload a video or whenever we go live. Otherwise, if you follow the old podcast format, follow us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts to start every day with everything you need to know in Wisconsin sports. While you're there, leave a nice review, 5 stars, kind comments, tell some folks what you like about the show. Helps the show grow and will allow me to produce even better content for everyone. Thanks again for listening or for watching. I've been your host, Kendrick Stumbris on Wisconsin.